everybody, and welcome to the webinar today. I recently had a client contact me and ask me about 3 ways to save for her future. I thought that was a great topic to share with you. There's so many different ways to save and to invest and think about future goals. So I wanted to boil it down to 3 ways, 3 ideas of how to save for your future. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So first off, I want to do this in phases. We're going to talk about where the money's coming from, where is it going to, and then how does it get there? So it's kind of like a little journey that we're going to take today. So first, where's the money coming from? All right, guys, it's not popular, but I'm going to use the B word, and that is budget. Yes, I know, budgeting is probably not the thing that you want to do on a Friday night, but it's actually a superpower. They say that knowledge is power, and if so, then budgeting can be a superpower. Here's 3 different ideas on how to budget to make it maybe a little less painful. The first one was popularized by author David Bach, which, by the way, if you have not heard of him or checked him out, do so. He's a great author, had several books over the past few years. For budgeting, he uses a method called pay yourself first. Now that's kind of backwards from how a lot of people think of budgeting. So I like to bring it up because it's kind of cool. Instead of doing the necessities, paying all the things that you have to, which is basically paying everyone else first and then saving what you have, he turns that on his head and he says, pay yourself first. What he means by that is putting money into your savings first. He says about 10 to 20%. Put that towards your long-term savings goals as the very first thing that you do. The second thing then becomes necessities. That's rent, that's food. He also includes debt in that as well. And then the final thing to put money towards is your lifestyle. That's their desires, that's the fun stuff. So that's David Bach's method, pay yourself first. Another one is called the 50-20-30 rule. That was popularized several years ago by LearnVest. So what that means is that breaks it down into some hard numbers that could be easy to follow. The 50% is for necessities. So again, that's for food, for shelter, your mortgage, your rent payment, your groceries. That all falls in that 50% category. The second category, 20%, is for long-term financial goals. So retirement is usually at the top of that list, maybe some other long-term, far-out financial goals. And then the 30% is left for lifestyle and desires, eating out, maybe movies, things that are a little bit more fun. Now, in both of these, what's maybe a little tricky is the definition of necessity or desire, right? Because is your cell phone a necessity or a desire? Kind of depends. More and more it's becoming a necessity. But there's some gray areas in there that you'd have to think about really carefully and define in order to follow these methods. Now, I'm going to share a third one with you that I think is very fun. This is from author Ramit Sethi. And he wrote the Conscious Spending Plan. Actually, the book is I Will Teach You to Be Rich. But in that, his budgeting method is called the Conscious Spending Plan. And what that means is, again, it starts out a little similar. You have 50 to 60% that goes towards necessities. So that's your rent, your groceries, your insurance, your debt payments. That's in the necessity category of 50, 60%. But then he says, 10% should go towards retirement, whether that's your 401k, your Roth IRA, whatever vehicles you have, those go towards retirement. 5 to 10% then goes towards midterm savings goals. So that would be things like maybe gifts or a vacation, things that are a little bit closer than that long-term retirement goal. And then here's the unique thing about Mr. Sethi, and that is he's got a 20 to 35% bucket, the last bucket, that is for guilt-free spending. So he calls that your one splurge. Let's say you decide that you just really love movies and that's your thing and you want to go out and see the newest movie every time that there's something released. So that 20 to 35% can go towards those movie trips and having a good experience. That's guilt-free spending. Why guilt-free? because you've worked it into your budget. Now, what's fascinating about this that I find is it actually works really well with human psychology and human behavior. Because if you get too restrictive, then after a while, it just gets really old. And we humans have a tendency to just act out and say, forget it, this is too much. And then we maybe go on a spending splurge that's not real healthy. By working in that guilt-free spending, that helps to alleviate bottling up that pressure and going on those binges. So another thing that can happen is if you've already got money budgeted towards that guilt-free spending, you might find that you don't need 20 to 35% as he is allotted. Maybe you go and see some new movies in that example, and you realize, okay, I'm good. I really don't need that extra money I've budgeted. So now I'm going to put that towards maybe my retirement goal or my midterm goal, like my next vacation. It's kind of cool because it can work with your psychology instead of against it. So those are 3 different ways to budget to help us answer where is the money coming from in saving for your future. I want to share one more, and that's if you want to get really hardcore, check out the FIRE movement. That stands for Financially Independent Retire Early. And I've got the URL there, playingwithfire.co/whatisfire. So FIRE is living on half of your income and saving and investing the rest. It was popularized by people in their 20s who wanted to retire by the time that they were 40. And guess what? A lot of them did using this method. So it's not for everybody, but it is very interesting and worth checking out. All right, next question is, where is the money going to? So it's really important here to clearly define your goals. We just went through some ideas in the budget of how you would want to save money for your future, right? 10%, 20%, kind of depending on how your budget works. But saving for your future, or even saving for retirement, can be a little bit vague. So getting more specific is even better for defining your goals. Guys, this is not just fluff. Neuroscience has shown us that the more specific we can get with a goal, the more likely we are to be motivated to achieve it and to find ways in our daily lives to help make that goal a reality. Or as a mentor of mine used to say, your brain kind of tricks itself into materializing if you've really, really visualized what you're going for. Think about having SMART goals. Probably a lot of you have heard of SMART goals before. It's going to be specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and time-bound. So you want to think of all the different aspects of the goal and really define that. It's so much more helpful than just saying, I'm going to save for my future, I'm going to save for retirement, to have a very specific goal. Let me give you an example. Often when I am coaching clients on retirement, we will build out a retirement picture. What happens when you get up in the morning? Where are you? What do you smell? What do you see? What does breakfast taste like? What are you going to do during your day? Who are you going to meet? Where are you going to go? Planning out all of these details, even if they don't happen, it's okay. You're helping to visualize and engage all of your senses, which is another part of the SMART goal. So take the time to do that and really think about what you want to achieve. It'll help motivate you. Another thing in that motivation, I like to recommend that you have a savings account for each goal. So when you're thinking about saving for your future, what are you saving for? Get real specific and then have an account with that name on it. So perhaps you have 5 different savings accounts. One's for your emergency savings. One is for your next vacation. But again, get more specific. Say, my vacation to the Colorado mountains, where I'm going to backpack for 2 weeks. Get real specific there. You could have a savings account just for that. You could have a savings account for purchasing a home, a nest egg for down payment for a house. You can have a savings account for a future gift that you want to give. Maybe you want to help your niece go to college. Having one account for each goal not only helps you with that psychological motivation, it also leads us to the next exciting part. And that is how is the money going to get there? Okay. So if you have an account for a specific goal, this is so cool because you will be able to better determine the best way for the money to reach that goal. Let's get specific here. If you have a short-term goal, something that you're going to use money for within the next 1 to 3 years, some types of investments are going to be more appropriate than other types. So in a short-term goal, savings accounts really are what I recommend the most. That's because you're not going to have a lot of volatility. It is a safe place to put your money. Now, I know it's relatively low returns. Interest rates are getting better, but you're not going to make a ton of money. But guess what? That's not the point. In a short-term savings goal, you just want the money to be there when you reach that goal in 1 to 3 years. So don't get too focused on returns when we're talking short-term. Think about safety. A good place to shop for this, if you need to get started, is bankrate.com. That's not a site that's trying to sell you anything. So I like that it's basically just data. You can shop for different types of savings accounts, like I've recommended here, money market accounts, CD rates, and it can show you across the nation and across different banks what the rates are. So very helpful piece of information. What about a midterm goal? Let's say you've got a savings goal that's 3 to 7 years away, a little bit farther than that short term. This is a little tricky, guys. This is where it gets a little gray. And I've read many different blogs where financial advisors differ on this recommendation. So know that there's not really a black and white answer here. I lean towards a safety type of account, again, for this midterm goal. So that's going to be something like a CD, a money market, or maybe a high yield savings account. Again, all of those you could shop on bankrate.com. Yes, again, they're going to have lower returns, but they're also going to have lowish volatility. The reason that I'm not recommending that you jump into an investment, a stock or something like that for even a midterm goal is because a full cycle in the market is usually around 10 years. So if you jump into a cycle midterm and really only have like 4 years to your goal till you want the money, you could be in a downturn through no fault of yours, and you might not want that for a midterm savings goal. So I like to err on the side of caution and lean more towards a money market or a CD for these types of goals. Some advisors also recommend short-term bond funds. These are the safer part of investing where you could get started. But again, this year has been really weird, and even the bond market is down year to date as of this recording. So I don't know if I'd recommend a short-term bond fund even for a midterm goal, personally. So where's a place that you could look around and get started? Well, Morningstar.com is a great place for data on investments. So if you kind of want to dip your toe in the water and learn a little more about short-term bond funds and what I mean by that, you could go to Morningstar.com. They have some good educational pieces. And again, just data. They're not trying to sell you anything, which I always look for. All right, let's get to that fun long-term goal. For most people, this is going to be retirement is probably the longest term goal that we set financially. So 10 plus years, what kind of vehicles would be appropriate for that? Here's where investing comes into play. You got long enough that you can go through some cycles, some volatility in an attempt to get potentially higher returns. So you got to be okay with some risk and some volatility, but usually the idea is that you'll be paid for that. Where is a place that you could shop for this? Well, Morningstar.com, again, is going to tell you about investments. But here's another tool that I absolutely love. This is called dinkytown.net. Weird name, cool calculators. This is where you could go to calculate how many years you have towards retirement or another long-term goal, and how much you might want to save and how to get there. So I love this for being able to determine, are you on track and do you need to make any adjustments? So for example, you could put in your age now, what age you wanted to retire, and a percentage of your income that you want to save, and then see where you end up. Sometimes people will use that information and say, whoa, I'm not as close as I thought I would be. Maybe I need to increase my savings, or maybe I need to change the way that I am saving, or make some other adjustments. So I love to use dinkytown.net with clients to kind of walk through this thought process and make sure we're using the right tool for the job in how the money will get there. So to recap, 3 ways to save for your future. First, think about where is the money coming from in the first place, and that's thinking about your type of budget. Second, where's the money going to? Clearly defining your goals, seeing them, tasting them, hearing them, smelling them, and maybe even having one account per goal. And number 3, how will it get there? The different financial vehicles, picking the right tool for the job. This has been really fun to share with you today. I hope you found some interesting tips in here, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future.